Was there ever a time where you felt that maybe you wouldn't be here?
Yeah, loads.
Really?
I felt uncomfortable for a huge part of my life, having to do all these things which I felt like I should have been grateful for, but not feeling very comfortable doing them.
Wow, what a juxtaposition. It's like a constant battle.
I'm not going to cry on this podcast, Jamie. Not here for that. I'm Stephen Manderson, better known to some as Professor Green, and they forced me to say this. I am in great company.
A singer and mental health campaigner.
Another UK legend, Professor Green.
This is Millie Mackintosh, who was on the show, who is your ex-wife.
The second and third page of the Daily Mail the day after we got married was East End drug dealer marries Quality Street heiress.
That's mad. Do you think there's a correlation between having your boy and then figuring out yourself as well?
Yeah, massively. It was the most significant kick up the backside I've ever had, yeah. You know, he was like, Dad, I really don't want you to die. And I'm like, okay, keep it together, Stephen.
Can we talk about your dad?
It's really unusual for my dad and his two brothers to have taken their own lives because it's not a decision that many of us are capable of. And this is the thing with grief. It changes shape. It never disappears. I will forever be sad about my dad having passed. It was the absence that he couldn't be there to help or to aid, and I couldn't talk to him and get a response from him. And I would love for him to meet
If your dad was here,
yeah.
What's the one question you would ask him? Hey guys, welcome back to Great Company. Firstly, thank you so much for coming back to the show. We really appreciate it. Secondly, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, if you could click that subscribe button, it does us absolute wonders. It's completely free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does us so much, I cannot tell you. It keeps allowing us to get the great guests and keep making the show that we love to do. Before we start the show with Professor Green, which I'm really, really excited about, there are some conversations that we have that are really sensitive. Okay. I cannot wait for this. Enjoy this episode of Great Company with Professor Green. I sent you a message last night because my neck was really sore.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I was going to make this, but I made it. So I just want you to just validate the fact that can you say you feel sorry for me, that you just, my neck, all those
I
things.
empathise, yes.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
psychopathy is not something I suffer from. It looks really, and I've had something similar. I said to you upstairs, when it happened to me, I thought I was having a stroke. It was grim. It was like this tendon or something I'd never felt in my neck, and I couldn't move. And it was like almost womping, like a dubstep bass. It was like, what? And I felt stuck.
And then
how are you?
It's apart from that, great, but that was sore. But then yesterday when it kicked in, so Sophie, my wife, is 8 months pregnant.
Yeah, I've seen. Congratulations.
Thanks very much, man. And
I used to hate children. Well, I didn't. I was scared of them.
We're gonna get into this,
yeah.
But there was no sympathy, like zero.
Are you kidding me, mate? I'm pregnant.
That's exactly what happened, and I was like,
get used to it,
man. I was like, where's the sympathy? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's this, and I was like, she was like, look at me, I'm 8 months pregnant. There is like, you're not gonna get anything out of me, and I was like, please help me. And
were you on the floor?
Dude, the only sympathy I got was from you in the email, and I just read it over and over again, and I was like, okay, I feel much better now, thank God. I want to ask you a big question.
Mm-hmm.
There's this idea of like sort of toxic masculinity, right? And I found, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, is that when I was dealing with anxiety, crippling anxiety, right? What was hard for me is I didn't have a reason. There was no reason. I didn't know why I was feeling it. And that for me was really, and I really want to tread carefully here. You came from your father not being around, committing suicide, to mum being sick, all these things. There's a lot of reason there in a way for you to feel a certain way. I had a lovely upbringing. I had loving parents. Yeah. I had money. I was privileged. I went to a supposedly good school. I had friends, but yet I felt like a fraud, and that was what I think made me.
But surely that made it even more difficult. You know what I was saying to you about
it did
becoming
make it difficult,
successful and then feeling the guilt around, like, oh my God, I'm not happy necessarily all the time. Nor should anyone be. That's not a realistic aim. Content. But surely that contributed to just making things
It made it worse.
You
It
shouldn't
did.
diminish what you feel because of something that you presume you don't deserve to feel or shouldn't because someone has it worse than you. It's all relative. So your experience is the only experience you have. You can't step into my shoes. We can discuss things. We can talk now about life in the way that we are, and we can develop some sort of understanding. But one of my pals didn't know what anxiety was until his parents separated, and then because he just used to go, "Put yourself together," you know. And fine, I actually needed to in that moment. Like, there's so much talk around, that's really unhelpful language. I disagree. I think at times we have to man up in the same way that sometimes women have to woman up. There are things we have to puff our chest out.
Resilience is important,
exactly,
man. 100%.
But don't be ignorant to things that you're not addressing. And there's a book called The Middle Passage by James Hollis, and he talks about angst, anger, anxiety, angina. They're all born of the same word, right? And they all relate to what he suggests is yourself screaming, your authentic self saying, hey, your life is not aligned with anything that's conducive to you attending to what you actually could or should or want to do, really. And at that point in life, would you say there were things going on that you didn't really enjoy, but that felt necessary?
100%. Yeah. It's and also I was doing a television show where I was completely out of control and everything was edited for me and I didn't really know my place in life. And it's going back to what
I've got a knot in my stomach just hearing that. I've never thought about it in that way.
But you were also amongst that sort of thing and you saw what that did to people, and you were,
I saw it, in my home.
Exactly.
It was that level of attention. Like when Millie and I started seeing each other, that's
crazy.
That just, I mean, things changed so significantly. And what people don't realize is because we were spoken about so often, and I very rarely did this, but like comments on news sites, it would just be like, oh, here they are again. But we don't ask for that. Those pap shots are not set up. They're invasive. We don't talk about ourselves anywhere near, or our relationship anywhere near what we're spoken about, however much we're asked. But this thing has grown into its own thing. And the pressure that came from that, made it impossible in hindsight to have, I guess, like a really truly authentic relationship, and also undiagnosed neurodivergence between both of us. We had a conversation about this recently, and it was quite.
Did you?
Yeah, and it was quite like, it makes sense, doesn't it? Like it kind of makes sense.
Can I ask though, because this is Millie Mackintosh, who was on the show, who is your ex-wife.
Yeah.
Because it was what I think, looking from an outside in, right? The reason why it was so attractive to everyone to press, because it felt like the boy from Hackney and the girl from Chelsea.
Well, the first two, the second and third page of the Daily Mail the day after we got married was East End drug dealer marries quality street heiress, which, do you know what? I've sold weed and it's, it's like many, many generations, but there's probably some inheritance somewhere along the way, right? But when we met, and I don't say this as in any way to be offensive, Millie was working, she was doing Made in Chelsea, but she was working at Space & K, right? So I was already at a point in my career, which, was allowed us to meet, I guess, because, we weren't in similar worlds. We were very, very separate. And there was something so she's beautiful, man. She's, there is something so, and I stand by this. I don't want to sit here and speak ill of her at all. There isn't a bit of there's no resentment in me. She is gorgeous. We were not good for each other at that time. We were for a point, and then, I think things that we didn't understand were happening, and it was way more than we could have ever.
And I spoke, by the way, beautifully put, man. I spoke to a guy called Alain de Botton, who's this amazing guy.
He's incredible.
Something amazing that he said to me once, right, which really stuck me, is that I said, what gives you the best chance of staying together? The statistics show that marriages break up, and it's over 50%, and all these, and that's only counting the people who actually divorce, not the people who are happy.
A lot of people break up in the home.
Yeah, you know what? Exactly, right? And he said, if you realize that you're two broken souls trying to figure out life, then you have a good chance of survival. And I think what happens is, especially when you're younger, maybe with you and Millie, two broken souls who are hoping one other is probably going to heal them.
Yeah, extrinsic. See, back to that thing of looking for
Something is going to...
It's going to be, but it's going to be out there. I'm not going to be able to do this on my own, and it's not in here. It's something there. Happiness is something I'm pointing at. And it's out there. I make you right, yeah.
And
I imagine we both felt that at that point, and it wasn't happening, and therefore there was probably building resentment from that. God, I'm thinking about this more than I maybe ever have.
Yeah.
But it made, it was challenging, like most relationships are.
But is it
there was so much else in the mix as well.
But see, was it tricky because, you were making music that was like top of charts, and it was like killing it, and like all these different things, and then your relationship is also, it's like that feels to me, in my world, in my existence at that time, that feels very attractive as well. It's like, oh my God, this is exciting. That feels exciting. Was there a sense of excitement around it as well? And then my second question is that I think my parents got divorced when I was 8. And I found that very tricky. Looking back at it now, I actually go, brave of my dad, perhaps, to do it, because he'd already come from one divorce.
Wow.
So then he was in a second divorce.
Yeah.
And all his friends, it's not even the public eye. But he didn't. I go, well, it's kind of a brave thing to do. When you guys go through your separation, how hard is it to make that decision?
It was really tough. And if there wasn't that pressure, we may have never got married, is the truth. It very nearly didn't happen. And yeah, it was, but I remember having a conversation with my two best mates, Lewis and Felix, and am I getting cold feet? What's going on here? And one of them said yes, one of them said no. I won't put him in it because it's not their responsibility. But I didn't, I made my own decision, and we made our decision, and we didn't get married for the wrong reasons. We loved each other. It was intoxicating. It was probably, there was probably an element of trauma bonding. The thing is about the body, right, is it gets used to a feeling, and it doesn't really matter whether it's positive or negative. It's probably more stimulating if it's negative. And if you have that over prolonged periods, you need more and more of it to feel alive. And I think that leads a lot of us to finding ourselves in situations which are not necessarily for, the better of our lives, because it's what we're accustomed to. And it takes a lot to get to a place of going, okay, well, I had a significant part in that, 50% at least, because there were two of us in the situation. And it didn't work out, but hopefully we can both go forward and find, happiness and belonging and be grounded and regulated.
Do you think, I think this happens so many times, man, where we get to a position, a job, relationship, marriage, and we think, well, everyone's looking at us, so we're going to have to do this. And it takes a lot of strength to kind of go, this isn't right. I'm not going to do it. Actually, wait, hang on a second. This isn't that. So I reckon so many people, again, listening right now are going, yeah, man, I wish I'd said no.
Tied the knot yesterday.
Yeah.
Looking for annulment now, based off our conversation. No, but it's that, there's, unless, I guess, in more sort of day-to-day situations, we will choose familiar hell, right? It's that, we don't know what's on the other side of change, and therefore we will choose what we know best. And if what we know is noise, we'll choose noise. If what we know is suffering, we'll choose a way to suffer. But, we also, even in that, you're handing that over to someone else when the responsibility in that situation is yours.
I mean, one of the things you also have, and you sort of spoke about, is the scar you have in your neck, which is where
I've got one on the other side now as well, down there.
Oh,
and I've got one there, and I've got one all the way across my stomach, and different reasons. These were all surgical. I was professionally shanked. But
man, because someone stabbed you in the neck with a bottle.
Yes, yeah. He accused me of barging someone. The person, he said I barged, never said anything, because I said excuse me in a loud club, and he didn't hear me, so I put an open hand on his back and said, excuse me, please, and moved behind. You've seen me enough to know how I carry myself.
100%.
And it descended, and it just,
Yeah.
Didn't need to go there. It didn't. The arc of just how quick it went from nothing to nearly taking my life, which would have took both of our lives. It was just so unwarranted. There was no history to it. I never got stabbed on no G shit, no block shit, no road shit. It happened really randomly, and I wish for both of us it didn't.
Isn't it crazy how I think this sort of like how one moment can change life
Really quickly.
that sliding door moment.
Yeah. Really
One decision,
quickly.
one moment,
There was a kid on the very same night who sadly on Amherst Road passed away, got stabbed in the neck on the same night in Hackney, and he passed away. And how many other lives altered, changed, maimed, ruined, destroyed because of it. It's really, and the thing is as well, like, outside of psychotic behavior, there's a place where it happens. And so when you see campaigns around zombie knives and stuff, I agree, people should not have access to tools like that. But most people are stabbed with kitchen knives. You're not going to get rid of kitchen knives. There's areas and there's a kind of socioeconomic background where this happens. And the problem we're dealing with is poverty. Skinny Man talks about it on his album, brilliant album, best UK rap album ever, the Council State of Mind. The science of social deprivation. This is understood, and we're not tackling poverty, so we're not going to tackle knife crime. Where I would argue it's being perpetuated at the moment with.
So what would you do? Big question.
Speculate. Front end the spending. We know what it costs when someone ends up in prison. We know what it costs when someone's life.
£60,000 a year, I think.
Right, and we know. So I mean, you could probably halve that and give someone a wage. Not that people should just be given, but if you improve someone's, you improve someone's opportunity, you improve outcomes. From a completely capitalist, selfish point of view, let's improve opportunity, because if we improve opportunity, we improve outcomes. If we improve outcomes, we improve the labor force, because more people go into the labor force. What happens then? Well, more people have money to spend. So what happens? We grow the economy. There's a lot of reason to improve opportunity. And then from a human point of view, from I grew up with fuck all point of view, you improve the quality of someone's life. And we only have one. And it's really short, isn't it? Yeah. God, that's the first time I've nearly cried this whole fucking episode. Because it is immediate. I go to my son and I'm like, how much time have I got? Like my head just goes, but you improve people's quality of life, and that should be where we start. But sadly, I think that the more selfish aspect of how it can benefit the economy is probably more attractive to people who can possibly make a difference. I don't know why there has to be such disparity. I don't know who it aids.
Do you think in the working class community, typically men, there's a lot of men who are lost?
Yeah, massively. There's a really terrifying book, Boys and Men by Richard Reeves. And he talks about, the effect of men becoming less marriageable, men becoming unmarriageable. So therefore women looking at them as just an extra mouth to feed and thinking they can do everything themselves, and the impact that has on then raising boys. And
wow,
that's not villainizing women, by the way, but just what's happening. And then men being at much greater risk. I can't repeat all of this verbatim. I need to go back and read the book another 6 times. But men being at much greater risk of mortality if they're not in a relationship. So the women offered most independence by way of success are most likely to marry. Which, there's so much fucking division. We're not even, against patriarchy together. It's just, well, if women are doing better, it must be at the cost of men. You know what I mean? And let's feed that to men. In the same way that people are encouraged to be angry at immigrants because they're the problem, right? Despite you having much more in common with them than you ever will your middle or upper class counterparts, they're the problem. It's all of this division which is encouraged and relied upon that stops any significant change from ever happening because there's no unity between us.
Fuck.
How do we ever unify and make substantial change when we're not all pulling in the same direction?
So how do we stop them versus us?
Oh, we try and work together. I always say fix your home. Genuinely, I just think my son hopefully will grow up with ideas of how to do this better than I've ever had the ability to. And I just think if we all start from there, but we have to educate ourselves. We can't just we need to save boys. We need to help men. It's not necessarily a woman's job to do that, but collectively we all have responsibility with each other because we are, for better or worse, we are all in this together. there's a lot of people who are angry with the situations they find themselves in. And some of that anger is just, I'm not here to diminish that anger, but it's then leveraged by people who benefit further from, further division. And you look at reform and it's just, I find that side of things really scary. Like,
can I ask, man, because you
all the British flags going up. I went through Basildon the other day going, what in the Brexit is going on here? And it's a sad use of something which, soldiers coming home from war gave a real good feeling of, I'm okay. I've made it back. It's not that anymore. There's, people talk of being patriots and a lot of people not knowing their own history.
It's a lot of people consuming conversations that we're stuck in our own algorithms, and so we're being taught by our own algorithms rather than the wider algorithm which we need to see.
And then therefore, and there's also not much safe space for conversation because you have to sit and talk with people that you're not aligned with and that you don't agree with. But the art of disagreeing agreeably is forgotten, and you can't.
You've got to win now. You've got to win. Rather than going, again, Alan Botan says my favourite thing, the thing that turns me on is when someone goes, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I haven't thought of it that way. Oh, maybe you're right. Yeah. We've lost that.
Without the need to be right, though.
Yes, without the need to be right. Yeah, but you know what I mean? We feel like we all have a voice because of social media, so we all become lawyers or dictators, and we have to say, this is what we think, and you've got to believe it, and if you don't believe it, then...
And it's so, people can't, and I think there's also the other thing that comes with phones, and, I'm guilty of spending too long on it, but is the distraction from what we feel and being able to just swipe from what we don't like feeling. So if we read something that challenges us and that prompts a feeling, see you later.
Man, you speak so clearly and from a place of such personal growth.
But then go and spend 2 hours scrolling on my phone.
Yeah, but
I just want to be absolute. I am not everything I've spoken about. I'm still very much not victim of. That's handing over accountability. Sorry, bad language. I'm still very guilty of.
Yes, but you're still.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying, Jamie.
Man, and that's the most brilliant thing, right? But what's the most important thing you've learned?
Try. Yeah. It's really easy to sit with, it sounds crazy, doesn't it? Because it's not easy to sit with ill feeling or the feeling of I could do more or I should have done different. You can't, unless you go down the rabbit hole of quantum physics, you can't impact anything that's already happened, but you can take that and try and do something different going forwards. And that's really, really hard. Because especially, 40, you've got a life of experience and it's really easy to just continue without making conscious effort, but it has to be conscious and it has to be effort to do something different. So yeah, try, fail, try again, do something different. Actively force yourself to do something different.
Can we talk about your dad?
Yeah.
I got a picture of your dad.
Oh, I look so much more like my mum's side of the family. It's so, like So he had two other sons, Jason and Gary.
Yeah.
And Jason came to a show of mine recently and we hadn't seen each other in years. I looked out into the crowd. I knew he was coming. Yeah. And I was like looking at my dad. I look way more like my mum's side of the family.
Man, look how cute. This is you the most adorable kid I've ever seen in my entire life. That's amazing. I'm in that process now where I can't even... If I talk too much about my baby, I get whoa.
Yeah. It just gets so much better.
Man, you're
gonna cry so much more, but like in the best way.
My friend Ollie Proudlock, who you've met and things like his emotions. I've never seen it with his emotions are like up to his eyeballs. Like any time you say anything, it clicks on.
That's also sleep deprivation.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But it's I wrote something for Sophie the other day, and I basically said. I said, at the end, I said, "It's going to move." Go. I said, "I can't wait to meet you, little one." And that now, I haven't even met this kid.
I had words for him that were a little bit harsher before he was born. We were told that we miscarried. We had a really fragile pregnancy, and it was during COVID. And we were told that we miscarried. So we went home. I was crying in a car park. I wasn't allowed to go through with her, and the nurse, which was a mistake on her part, said, "I've got someone who's miscarrying here. May her partner come through?" And they said no. But she had told us that we were, and then it was confirmed on the other side.
At what
when
week, can I
go.
ask? In terms
We
of
were
pregnancy?
about 4.5, 5 months. It was late. So
Wow.
it was like, it was at the part where,
You're in.
and you also realize that you don't want a kid, you want, selfishly, that kid. And then, so we went home, we cried all night, went back to the hospital the next day. I was allowed in at this point. They did the ultrasound because they wouldn't do it during the night. And the little fucker was bogling in the womb. And we were like, honestly, you want to talk about tears, mate? Whoa! But way more happy tears. Honestly, I've cried so many. You know, there's been some difficult times, but I've cried way more happy tears since having a kid. And I just said to him, listen, I don't know what age it will be, but you will be grounded
For doing that.
Enough. But it continued.
Wow. That emotions,
Yeah.
man, going
Wow.
from losing.
Yeah.
Some-
To finding out that he was all right. It was thankfully quite a quick turnaround. But like it,
Because at that point you have to, you're dealing with your own emotions,
yeah.
but knowing you're focusing so much on your partner's
and
emotions.
I couldn't tell her that everything was going to be all right. You know, it's a situation where you can't, and sometimes things aren't, and that's a God teaching kids that. He's already like, he says, oh man, like kids. I understand why I used to be petrified of them, because they will just say things, but when you have this connection to one, is you know, he'll just be like, Dad, I really don't want you to die, and I'm like, okay, keep it together, Stephen. Okay, well, we don't have to think about that yet, and hopefully not for a long time. You're like, how? You're presented with so many situations that you haven't got a blimmin' clue how to respond to. Like, you are thinking on your feet. There is no amount of reading that can prepare you for every question.
Someone says it's like your heart just like running around the place.
Oh, mate, that's a great explanation.
Yeah. It's like getting your heart,
yeah,
and then putting it on the road and letting it run around
in the body of a bipolar narcissist. Because they go from
that's what kids are like. Yeah,
no, completely. So until they're 7, they're completely egocentric. So it's not like negative narcissism. I'm not sure there's such thing as positive narcissism, but it's, you know, they're completely egocentric. So everything in the world happens in relation to him, and he can't see himself anything that happens outside of that. And therefore, he puts himself in the middle of everything. So I'm really conscious of trying to keep him in the middle of real situations, but safe situations. You know, everyone's like, I want my kid to be happy. Happiness is great. Content is way better. And, you know, emotionally regulated as far as their abilities allow is probably more important.
Do you think there's a correlation between having your boy and then figuring out yourself as well?
Yeah, massively.
Wow.
I mean, I was on that journey before, or I thought I was. But, I mean, it was the most significant kick up the backside I've ever had, yeah.
Man, I read an article where it said that the birth of your son brought up feelings of your dad.
Yeah.
Can you explain that to me?
Yeah. I wanted to go and see my dad. I wanted to, you know, immediately I'm grieving her. And this is where I talk, you know, when I said about rumination, it was also just in, you know, living in the past. If I think about things that happened then and I feel the feelings that I felt by way of those things, I'm in the past.
Yeah.
I'm not present.
Uh-huh.
That's not fair to my son. But there was a grieving that took place. And this is the thing with grief. It changes shape. It never disappears. I will forever be sad about my dad having passed. And when I got married to Millie, you know, I looked out. My dad couldn't be there.
Mm.
That's awful. It feels horrendous, you know, and not being able to go to my dad, but also having not had him in a way that gave me example of what to do. When you're in a situation, you think like, oh my God, we're walking out the hospital, and the only thing that was required for us to leave the hospital with this life that we've got to protect, care for, and look after and nurture is a car seat for the fucking car. Where's the book?
Yeah.
But it's the absence. You know, it was the absence that was difficult. And the absence that had taken place while he was alive, and the absence that it was more permanent in his death, and that he couldn't be there to help or to aid, and I couldn't talk to him and get a response from him. And I would love for him to meet and he'd be a young grandfather.
Can I ask you a big question?
Yeah.
If you could, if your dad was here,
yeah,
what's the one question you would ask him?
What was it that hurt so much? because I feel like, people make that decision in isolation, hence why so many, especially male, because we're more impulsive and I guess by way of testosterone, more violent. We choose more violent methods, and therefore 3 out of 4 male suicides are successful. 3 out of 4 suicide attempts are female, but 3 out of 4 successful suicides are a male. And in that moment, no one can ask that question. What is it that hurts so much? And it's really sad to think that people make a decision that generally affords them some sort of
Relief,
yeah, or feigned elation, happiness, control. Like I've established control over my life again, but what I'm going to do in this moment with the control that I have is end it, because that's the only way that I can put end to what I'm feeling. And that's really, it's awful.
man. Yeah, it's just I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it just presents so many questions. You're like, and they can't be answered. So you have to quite quickly let go of that best you can, because
I think the question that I want to ask is that you spoke, and it's, you put that so beautifully, by the way, about like how men in a sort of such a sadistic way. You spoke about it so beautifully, and because of the stats, because of the nature of it, because of it is the biggest killer for men under 49, I think.
49 now.
I think it's 49, right?
Well, statistically, I understand things are getting worse. I was with Simon Gunning, the CEO of Calm, recently, and
Ricky Hatton, man, he was an ambassador for Calm as well, like United, man.
It's really, really telling of times, I think. And people, there's so much discussion around masculinities, and I say masculinities because there are varying, many varying types of masculinity, but I feel like there's such a distinct lack of connection with self, and it's not to diminish nor discredit the hugely negative and oppressive impacts of patriarchy on women, but we don't discuss the impact of patriarchy on especially the working class man, who has gone through detachment from self, detachment from family, detachment. It's those are the really significant impacts of patriarchy on men, or the most significant, I would suggest then, or say. And I think that's really telling in a sense of of disconnect, of lack of purpose.
I think it's a lot of his lack of purpose, and I think there's so many things I want to unpack here, because the first thing I want to say is that, again, someone listening right now is probably listening because they're going, I want Stephen to help me through the grief that I'm going through, because they're maybe in a similar situation. Mm-hmm. How do you get through something like that? Because I heard that you had to go and identify your father's body.
Yeah, well, I was at the hospital, and his, reluctant to call them family, but his family, his the 3 children who weren't born his but took his name, and his partner wouldn't walk in, and Teresa, the woman who owned the shops he used to manage, this and that, was gonna walk. I couldn't. I'm like, how can you let
why wouldn't
his
they
boss
walk in?
I don't know. It wasn't easy, man.
I get
it wasn't. But I found it very difficult to understand. My brain went, this doesn't make sense. Absolutely not. How dare anyone that isn't actual fact, like it just, how can you not? You're hit. And so I just walked in, and it was tough. It's just like, the last thing I said to him as well was, if I see you again, I'll knock you out, which I wouldn't have. I would have just cried and thrown my arms around him. Oh, mate, it was grim. It was he was bruised. It was so, and it's like, but still very young, still very handsome, still, still a reminder of the ever so charming and gorgeous human. And when I unpacked that for the BBC documentary, Suicide
amazing
of Me,
documentary, man. And anyone who hasn't seen, go and watch it. Have you never watched it?
No, I will have to with my son one day.
You got to, man.
Yeah, but that will be the time. I struggled to, and also life was during the making of that documentary, there was a lot going on outside of it. Things weren't great in a few places, a few parts of my personal life, as well as that contributing to all the difficulty, because it was really hard. It was really, really hard living through that and existing in that. And then the documentaries beyond that, which weren't as personal, but they were situations that I'd seen friends encounter, or that I'd been through as well, childhood poverty or hidden homeless. There was nothing pink or fluffy. That 4 years of documentaries was really difficult because my feelings are quite sticky. My empathy isn't broken. If anything, it's the opposite. I over empathize, and those things stick. And when they're things that you can't change or alter, it's quite that was a really difficult 4 years for me, and there was a lot of residue from investigating those situations.
When you walked in the room, right? I do this quite awkward thing where, like, I clap.
You start clapping.
I start clapping.
Yeah, that was weird.
And what I've noticed is that everyone feels quite uncomfortable when that happens.
But do you enjoy discomfort if you're in control of it? So like awkwardness, if I'm in control of awkwardness, I'm completely okay with it. At the moment, a stand-up comedian is having a bad time.
You feel bad about it?
Well, I don't feel bad for them. I feel bad for me immediately and can't escape. I feel like I want to hide in my belly button. That's generally when I get awkward or there's awkwardness that I'm out of control of, not in control of. I want to hide. I think there's like a kind of not a disconnect, but a misfire between what I feel and my ability to
articulate.
Not necessarily articulate. I think I've over time found a way to do that, especially through music. But I think my face doesn't necessarily align with what I'm feeling at times. So really? I can get bad news, and I will. I used to laugh when I was shouted at school. I definitely didn't think the situation was funny, and it definitely didn't help things. But it's just like that's awkward. Someone's losing their temper. They've lost control. And I would also think that, which is quite a lot for a young kid to understand and establish. But yeah, I don't know. I feel less like making all of the effort that I used to suppress all that, because that was quite draining.
What do you mean? So you found it exhausting to try and hide things that you were feeling, and now you express or you show or you put out what you're feeling rather than trying to cover those up?
Yeah, way more than I used to. I went through an assessment for autism after an assessment for ADHD. And
wow.
I was like, it was answering those questions. So like when I was a kid, I used to count words people would say, and I would tense my left bicep. And
explain that more to me. What do you mean?
So I had a tic. So if you were talking to me when I was a kid, I used to count words, and I would tense my bicep for every word you were saying. It was just something that I guess it for me was calming in a situation that I found quite overstimulating. I didn't have those words or understanding then. And because I was thought of as bright, I wasn't exceptional, but I was thought of as bright, despite the fact that I was never in school, the focus seemed to be on, well, when he's here, he's great. It wasn't, well, why is he not at school for all of this time? I saw a psychiatrist when I was a kid, and everything was handed over to my not having my dad around. My mum and dad not bringing me up, and therefore I was anxious. I was also born with an issue in my digestive tract and was operated on at 6 weeks. So it was always, is it physiological? Is it psychological? It was both at different times, but everything was handed over to me not having my dad, because I loved him to bits, and I still do, and I don't have him now. But I'm not going to cry on this podcast, Jamie. Not here for that. I don't want to live in my once misery.
Oh man.
No, but it's important. People do have the power to do that, and so do I. And I could miss him, but I don't have to be sad every day. Now, so everything being handed over to that situation when I was a kid means that there was stuff that wasn't really assessed properly. Because there was relative trauma, and that was easy to see. There were things that were probably that required a little bit more investigation that were there, that weren't assessed until, I was 41.
I remember the first ever therapist I ever went to, right? Yeah. I was feeling so anxious. And this was the sort of time that we knew each other, Yeah.
There was a lot.
There's a lot going on.
There was a lot.
There's a lot going on there, man. And we're going to get into that.
We're not.
Hey, whatever. We'll just roll with it. But I remember I was feeling so anxious, man. And I went into the therapist, and the therapist said to me, so tell me about your childhood. And I went, okay. Well, and they went, did your parents argue a lot? And I went, I don't think so. And the therapist went, sometimes you block things out, I reckon. And they were trying to pin it on something. And I remember leaving it going like, this feels like a simple answer to like a quite a complicated situation that I'm going through. It's a lot of different things. And like you're saying is maybe they were trying to put it onto something rather than looking a bit deeper under the surface about actually what was going on. Yeah. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. But then I think I learned quite early to disguise things and hide things, and I was always called shy. I think I would argue I was considered.
Were you a happy kid?
Yeah, yes and no. I felt a lot that I didn't understand, and even throughout adulthood, and talking to therapy, something I've really had to come to terms with is that there's people in my family who, either because they're not here or because they're not that way inclined, there's people that I won't be able to have conversations I wish I could have with. Not for lack of trying, but like, my nan grew up during rations. She was post-war. My great-grandmother, who brought me up pretty much till I was 13, lived through 2 world wars in Hackney. Used to tell me where was bombed, what got flattened during the Blitz. And she passed away when I was 13, at an age when I just started to want to ask the interesting questions and could really take all of that on. And my nan, I think it kind of winds me up a bit when people are like, I just wish my parents would go and see a therapist. And it's not their fault. They were people doing what they had to do, and we weren't there for we weren't presented with the choices they had to make. And if my nan went to therapy, hypothetically, that would have been great. She would have had, such a better understanding of herself, and may have been able to, to unpick things that she's definitely not dealt with. But if she did that, she would have had to have come undone. Now, she raised 3 kids single-handedly, then looked after her mum and me at a time when she could have been building a life for herself. But she was, her life has largely been in service of other people, and that's what makes her happy. And I'm eternally grateful for that, because, there was a chance I could have ended up in care had she not have. And I just think it's really rich for people to sit around going, I've got the luxury of therapy and I can afford to come undone and put myself back together. And therefore my parents just should go and do the same thing. Well, if my nan done that, I probably wouldn't have, had the joy of being brought up by her. So I'm quite happy that perhaps she didn't.
What was your nan like?
She was tough but kind. Her love language definitely came in the shape of buying things, which was tough because we didn't have much money. So therefore there was, debt and stress around money. And I saw a lot of that, but didn't really put 2 and 2 together until I was at an age where I could practically buy things for myself. But she gave me such a good example as far as work ethic. But also, by way of her work ethic, I learned that working hard doesn't equate necessarily to having anything, because she would work 3 jobs a day. She used to get up at 4 a.m, was picked up by her governor, went to the Strand to clean banks. I went with her sometimes because I didn't go to school much. Then she would come home. If I went to school, she would take me. If I didn't, she didn't have too much time to really fuss around whether I did or didn't, because she had to go to work, and would go and do a day job at Percy Ingle in Stamford Hill. And then she would clean houses for people in the Jewish community in Stamford Hill.
Wow.
So, there was stress in my household, and it's understandable, right? That's a lot of energy, and to not much reward.
When you didn't go to school, why did your nan not say you got to go to school?
She really, really sympathized with my situation. And, through part of a conversation we have had, she feels like it was purely owing to the anxiety around, if I went to school, perhaps my nan or my great-grandmother or both of them would disappear and I'd have no one, because my dad would be in and out of my life and he wouldn't be around for. And there's probably some truth in that, but there's a huge amount of, even in adulthood, with all the therapy that I've done, there's a huge amount of discomfort around social situations. So
explain that to me.
Busy rooms. And people say, but you're on, you've got huge crowds when you perform. And yeah, but I don't have many people on stage. It's just me. And at the moment, Tommy Jules, I'm touring with DJ, vocalist Tommy Jules, who's brilliant. But it's just us on stage. So I don't have to be in that crowd. Like I said to I went for a lunch the other day with a load of my friends. Some of us had our kids, some don't have kids yet. Yeah. And I mentioned something about, because I've not drunk in nearly 15 months.
Congrats, man.
Thank you. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's way better.
It's so much better. I want to get onto that.
Yeah, we're going to.
I can't wait. We're edging towards it. But and I said to my mate, like, I can't be here much longer. And he's like, the first 2 pints are always a bit awkward. And I'm like, so you get it too, because you're explaining the very same thing. It's uncomfortable to be in this environment unless you're drunk. And I had a rule so I had this like conscious, and this is true for many things throughout my life. I had a saying, a rule, which was never a rule. I broke it constantly. And it was, if I have to have a drink to be where I am or with who I'm with, or both, then I will leave. And I never left. I had the drink. I made the call. I took everyone back to my kitchen. Like, I didn't like, I guess there was like a sort of conscious but not integrated understanding of how uncomfortable I found those situations. And I think there was a lot of my brain that allowed me to be brilliant in the studio, that really aided my success in music and my ability to see things a little bit differently, or to make, to have a different approach to things. But the flip side of it was, when I became successful, was having to do all these things which I felt like I should have been grateful for, but not feeling very comfortable doing them. And periodically burning.
What a juxtaposition. It's like a constant battle.
But you don't want to feel, you also don't want to you don't want to be seen to be ungrateful. And I struggle with people who are successful complaining, but that's removal of authenticity, because it doesn't matter how. I can't imagine it matters. I don't think there's an amount of money where you don't have good or bad days, and bad days. It's just, it just is what it is.
That's what you're talking about when your nan or great nan felt sorry for you, is that fear of abandonment, right? That's what you were feeling.
Well, that's what they presumed. And I imagine that to be true, but it was a lot about, I just didn't like the part of school which was the worry of being there amongst a classroom full of people, the noise, the unpredictability, that, when I did the assessment for ADHD, I just started laughing. I was like, oh no, I'm in no way unique. This is just textbook. And I was just shocked at how much became visible, because all the work I've done around mental health, and especially around men's mental health, I've never looked at ADHD or autism. So I didn't, because they're not psychiatric conditions. You can have mental health issues owing to especially undiagnosed or mismanaged ADHD. And I think I know I have, but they're not mental health conditions. They're differences. Yeah. It's a difference in wiring.
With the autism, which you mentioned before, what was the diagnosis afterwards?
Level 1. So I would have had support throughout my childhood.
Wow.
Had they have known.
And how does that sort of, how does that come out? What does that mean?
So there was it was a really lengthy process, and I was really lucky that my uncle was a very present part of my upbringing, because I was trying to ask my nan over 80 questions for just one of the forms, and she just kept going, no, you were fine, you were normal, you were fine, and my uncle,
that generational thing,
just ignore, must carry on, keep calm and carry on.
Completely.
It's funny, that saying's funny, because I look back and I'm like, that was not calm. That was not calm.
So because I know with the I recently did an ADHD one, which was interesting, but it wasn't as many questions. But I know with autism, it's like a lengthy process. Yeah, that really goes into so many different things.
Yeah, I mean, it was the tick that I used to have. There's things that I do, especially in the privacy of my own home, where I will, make noises or discuss things out loud, which there's many things that I didn't think to be anything unusual, but I'd never discussed with anyone. I was wet until I was 12. I wasn't dry through the night until I was like 12. Things that I just didn't think had any correlation to, me being, or because I never understood autism. I never thought to look at it, because I didn't. And also, you can't diagnose yourself.
I had that until I was 8. I used to wet the bed till I was 8.
Yeah. I've never said that out loud. Not that there's ever been a reason to, but I don't feel uncomfortable about these things anymore. But there was a lot of... I felt uncomfortable for a huge part of my life. Not just, those are things that you don't need to bring into conversation, but I felt really uncomfortable for huge parts of my life.
For how long, Simi, would you say?
40 years.
Really?
I don't think, listen, the diagnosis didn't make everything okay, but it gave me such an understanding and really prompted a level of intrinsic focus. Instead of looking at everything that happens to you, look at what happens here, what starts here, what's my place in things. And, if I wanted to go through the last 40 years of life, I'd waste the next 40.
Wow.
So I kind of looked back and went, okay, cool, make peace. How do we improve life going forwards? How do I create a life with support in the places I need it? Because I think, we find our tribe, right?
Yeah.
So I think what I've done and what I'm sure a lot of people have done is, instead of building support in the places you need it, you have to know that first. But you kind of align with people who probably need support in similar places.
Mm.
And that's not always helpful.
Lots of people open about ADHD.
Yeah.
And some people wear it as a sort of badge of honor sometimes, because it kind of represents being a bit mad and a bit crazy and energetic. But actually, real ADHD is a real nightmare. And I'm sure a lot of people, do quite like the diagnosis. A lot of people aren't open as much with autism because it's doesn't seem as a fun neurodivergent kind of.
No, and at a greater level, it the impact it has on children and families is huge. So it's not like and I think that there's so much that you see around ADHD being a superpower.
Yes.
What about, and to paraphrase Charlie Sheen, like suicide binges, the fact that I could just keep going and felt normal because drugs were having the converse effect on me, but I'd never discussed what they did to me with anyone else who had the normal effect.
Yeah.
And the fact that I could have died how many times, through drinking or doing drugs and not having an off switch. What about the rumination that I've suffered my entire life, negative cyclical thoughts that have exhausted me and made me incredibly unhappy, that have made life incredibly difficult, that I took, methylphenidate for the first time and went, okay, I can still hear my voice in my head and it's mine, but it's calm and I can think about what I choose to for the first time ever. I'm not stuck in this cycle of, a thought that enters and then won't leave.
What's methylphenidate?
Methylphenidate is Ritalin. So it's a medication that I'm prescribed for my ADHD. And there's fors and against for everything.
Sure.
Right now, where I am in life, it is the right thing for me. It's not the right thing for everyone. It's probably not the right thing for anyone all the time. But it gave me the ability to create distance between the me that had ruminated my whole life and the me that doesn't.
When was the first time you took it?
I think it was January this year.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Nervous to take it?
Yeah. Because you kind of don't want to, which is funny considering all the things I've willingly taken, I opted into taking before.
Yeah.
There's always a meme. There's of a lady at a festival, a white lady with dreadlocks, and it's like, takes acid from strangers, won't drink cow's milk.
Yeah, it's just mad. So just talk me through that. The ruminating thoughts that you had, because I know people listening right now, especially to you, man. And what I'm just loving about this conversation is like so many things you're saying, I'm going, oh my God, yeah. And I know people listening are going to be thinking, oh my God, the same thing. The ruminating thoughts, what were they like? What were those negative patterns that you were?
Awful. And it would often be when my head hit the pillow.
Saying
no
what?
Distraction, no distraction, healthy or otherwise, no noise, no task, and just like, what are the 10 things I don't want to think about? And they would just all enter my head at the same time and just replay over and over and over and over. And it would always be like, if I ever daydreamed as a kid, I used to skate, right? And this might feel like a weird analogy, but for example, I would imagine trying a trick and I would always fall at the end of it. It was just, there was never positive outcome. It was dread. And so any worry I had, there would never be a positive outcome. And when you
wire your brain that way.
Exactly. So me unlearning that now would be almost like talking therapy was not very useful for me up until this point because I couldn't escape what was so hardwired. It's probably why psychedelics are so beneficial in therapeutic settings because they create neuroplasticity, which undo some of that hard wiring. Again, this is really layman's.
No, but give it go with
as
it.
I understand it, and I haven't done this yet, but I find the idea of it quite interesting because it creates neuroplasticity, which allows you to, it doesn't do the work for you, but if you're doing the work alongside something like that, I imagine it can be hugely, hugely beneficial. And there's really good outcomes being shown from it.
Can I ask you a big question? The idea of nature and nurture.
Yeah.
You grew up in Hackney.
Yeah.
Your great grandmother dies when you're 13.
Yeah.
You're then brought up by your grandmother,
Yeah.
Nanny Pat, right?
Yeah, Nanny Pat.
Nanny Pat. And then your mum is 16 when she has you.
Yeah.
She can't really look after you because she's too young.
No.
Your dad is in and out of your life.
Mhm.
How much of that wiring in your head, that negative thinking, the way that you are, your natural sort of 40 years you have been is down to nature or is down to nurture?
I think both. I think entirely both. Environmental impact can't be discredited or discounted, but nor can the 40 aspects you take on of your personality by way of your parents. I don't think, it's definitely both. And that's kind of like, when you look at epigenetics, the expressions that your genes make are informed by your environment.
Yeah.
It's why you can have two people with twins who both respond to things completely differently.
Yeah.
And, that's down to a combination of nature and nurture. But a connection that people often forget about is the one with self.
100%. 100%.
And that's that.
Totally. And yeah, exactly.
I'm learning as an adult, and I feel like I want to expedite because I've got, a very soon to be adult in my care, my 4.5-year-old son. And it's been like, honestly, I learned so much by parenting him because, the things you explained about my mum not being old enough to look after me, my dad being in and out of my life, my great grandmother passing, me being brought up by my nan, they were strangely, they were all positives. As well as, negatives. Negatives, I didn't have, I didn't grow up in the 2.4 children household that I was made to feel at a time like I should have, or perhaps just made myself feel like I should have because I looked around and, that was more normal, or people were at least brought up by their mum. But I think we all too often, right? Almost everyone I hear only associates seemingly negative things with the negative things that happen in life. And that's not the case. So any good parts of my character are as owing to the bad things that I've experienced as they are the positive things that have happened. And it's like people don't like that. There's so much good to come from difficult things that happen, but it takes perspective.
But it also takes hindsight as well. For sure, right? Because I imagine.
Oh, mate, when I was at 100%, when I was in the thick of it, there was no positive.
No positive, right? Because you're just going, hang on a second, why is this happening to me? This is unfair. Why am I feeling this way? No. I want to change everything.
Yeah. But then instead of why, if we switch that to how, and that again is perspective and hindsight, but being able to think, instead of why me, fucking tiny violins everywhere, going, okay, how do I improve the situation? There's immediately something that can be done.
Yeah, but
it's not the easiest thing to do.
Totally.
And I'm telling you, I still fail at this miserably. Yeah. But there are times when I do succeed at it, and my life is gradually improving because of a shift in perspective.
And you're saying that from experience, which is really important. Yeah. Going from that position,
I had to suffer.
Yeah,
had to. That's
powerful, man.
Like, how do you build resilience? Unless you're using therapy at a point of not crisis. Like, therapy not at a point of crisis. How do you build resilience?
Wow.
We are resilient. We are. It's really unusual for my dad and his two brothers to have done what they did in taking their own lives, because it's not a decision that many of us are capable of. It largely is circumstantial, and I don't believe anyone is necessarily safe from that, least of all men between the ages of 15 and 45, for who it is the most likely thing to kill you is yourself, which is crazy.
How good at battling were you?
I was all right. I had to dumb it down a lot at the jump off, just because of I couldn't get too rappy. But then when I went to, and also when you're rapping to a beat and coming up with something off the top, on the spot,
that's what it is.
Against someone that you don't know and didn't know up until the point they got to the final or whatever. It's hard to be as timely or as thoughtful as you necessarily can be. But when I went to do the Power Summit, 50 Cent was in the crowd, Busta Rhymes, Remy Ma, all these people. But I beat Sirius Jones, I beat Axl, and it was like you could hear the whispers from like, what is this kind of? I still had my bent teeth at the time, and I could hear the whispers in the crowd, like, what's this white English kid with those teeth here battling for? And then by the time I was battling Sirius, it was like, UK,
get out of here.
Yeah, man. It was crazy.
Like proper 8 Mile style.
Yeah, but like no 8 Mile at that point. But it was live. It was proper lively.
Can I just ask you, I just want to say, when you're battling and you're in that moment,
yeah,
is it like, I don't know, I'm going to describe it like I can describe it. Is it like playing a game of tennis where you're just in the frickin' groove and it just like moments, sometimes it clicks and your brain is working and sometimes you're in like a flow state and you're just like, here we go, and you can just do it.
Yeah. There's times when you don't. My approach to it was always don't think. So I would walk around the crowd, Astoria or Scala, wherever jump off was at that time, or wherever I was battling, and I would talk to anyone about anything apart from battling.
Wow.
I just had to keep my head clear. And that allowed me to, and this was, I'd look at someone and go, right, I want to talk about that. And I'd hold that there and that would be there. And it wouldn't be in rhyme. But this was how.
It's like a puzzle in your brain that you're putting together.
I didn't realize, so I thought I just had rap hands, because when I started to become successful and people would recognize me, they'd come up and they'd go, oi, Green. And they'd do that. And I just thought, yeah, I do have rap hands. In fact, could I even rap if my hands were tied behind my back? What I discovered through the autism assessment was, I'm a visual thinker. And I thought, well, my skill set is words. And previous to that, it was numbers. So I thought that's academic. It's not creative. It's not visual, but I'm a very visual thinker and I draw. You
draw it in front of you.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that. It was that was like,
get out of here.
Yeah, I didn't.
So you're basically drawing a map in front of you. You'll take it like in a Minority Report when you're like,
but it's not something I can see. I can't explain it.
No,
but it is something I just thought, I gesticulate. I do a lot with my hands. I do, but I didn't know how significant it was to my way of thinking.
That's mad.
I thought so, yeah.
That's blown
but at least
my
I don't
mind.
feel so bad about being so busy with my hands now.
Fucking hell. I knew this was going to be a good conversation. I didn't realize.
I was really excited.
I didn't realize how great it was going to be.
Oh, mate.
I'm not even kidding you. Like, I'm not even kidding you.
It's quite nice to just sit down and talk. It's I
love it.
I find it so difficult to find times and like space in life to just do this.
Yeah, but that's why I love podcasting, because it gives you an excuse.
Yeah.
And also, I truly believe, I have a theory that every relationship, every business, whatever it is, friendship, you should do a podcast together, because it gives you an excuse to like actually talk about these conversations that we don't do.
It's disarming as well, isn't it?
100%. Because it's like, we're doing it for a podcast, but actually we aren't just going to talk about this.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about things that we actually want to talk about, but it's a podcast, so it gives us an excuse.
Yeah. It's weird. I don't put any thought into what's going to be said or what's going to happen. I'm just like, I enter into it going, let's have a chat.
I do this thing now, which is, I always want everyone to like get up and like speak and say something, and it's quite hard to encourage people to get up and say something. So what I said with the Candy Kittens team is, I said, I want you stand up and give something that you're proud of professionally that you've done this year, but also something proud that you've personally achieved this year. And the response was just amazing.
Mate, well done for encouraging that sort of stuff. Do you think you would have been encouraging those things had it have not been for all of the conversations you've had here?
No freaking ways. No ways. Like, it's so important. Like, to dinner parties, lunch parties, whatever. Yeah, how's life? How's work? Sure. Much better question saying like, how are you feeling at the moment? What are you doing? Like, what have you overcome this week? Whatever it is. Those are the real conversations to be having. Stephen, Matt, can I just say, I've loved every minute of this, dude. Like, and
thank you. Likewise, it's been really nice,
man. I've always appreciated you, even though we haven't seen each other for so long, but always have. We like to end the.
I've always supported you by way of buying Candy Kittens.
Man, keep doing that.
Very good.
We're gonna also. I want everyone to. I'm gonna link your documentaries below, and also all of your music. So I want and your new track and just everything, because there's so much passion, meaning, and just like it's just fucking great.
I can't wait till Slimaine's old enough to appreciate the bit of commentary on the new single.
Oh.
Daddy, I want more olives. Olives? I didn't know what an olive was when I was your age. You little middle class.
Man, we like to end the conversation with 8 questions. You ready for this?
Yeah, man.
What's a saying or phrase that makes you smile or cheers you up? Maybe something your son says.
I'm trying to think of something that, he says supper instead of sucker at the moment. He's like, you supper. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if you use a different word. I know what you're saying. You do realise like there's context here. And he's like, what's context? Supper.
Best compliment anyone's ever given you?
Someone recently said, I don't think he's a singer, but there's a nice quality to his voice. I don't know if there was any compliment in there, to be honest, not even backhanded.
I think sometimes you maybe find it hard to take compliments. I think you've had a lot. What scares you most about yourself?
Myself, probably. Yeah, I'd say, and I know that might seem like a cop-out, but there's a lot more to it than myself. Yeah, I've been my own worst enemy throughout points and periods of my life, and at very specific moments as well. And yeah, I've definitely feared my own actions and reactions, especially more than anyone else's.
When was the last time your son made you laugh?
The other day he woke up for his morning poo. He's very regular,
Mhm.
highlighting of how regular I'm not. And he's woke up, he's having his morning poo, and I started folding clothes, and he's like, "Daddy, you folding like a butterfly's wings." He goes to a Steiner school. And I was like, "Is that a new song?" He was like, "Yeah. And when we go downstairs, if you get me a blanket, I'll show you how to fold. I know how to fold now too." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's so about to cry." And he went, "Can you wipe my bum?"
That's freaking beautiful.
It is, man.
What's something you can't let go of?
Salt and vinegar crisps.
Nice.
It's that habit is far too hardwired. I don't think there's any psychedelic therapy, talking therapy, hypnosis that could ever get rid of my like, want, need for salt and vinegar crisps.
What brand?
Listen, Walker's. It's
Squares?
I don't mind that. Squares are pretty good. Not big fan of discos.
No.
Tyrrell's furrows are okay, but the normal Tyrrells feel a bit greasy.
I
Feel a
agree.
bit dirty after eating them. I feel like a grab bag is getting ever closer to just being what we thought a bag of crisps was. Yeah.
Have you ever had salt and vinegar popcorn?
No.
It's like powdered. Yeah, game changer.
Oh, you can see my. I was like,
yeah, game changer, man.
why haven't I thought of that?
Game changer. What's your guilty pleasure?
It shouldn't need to be a guilty pleasure. There's several. Lewis Capaldi is one of them.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's like they're so you know what I mean? When people are so popular, it's almost just like guilty pleasure, because God forbid you listen to something that's not a subgenre.
It's actually so true.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Can I not? Like, I love Alanis Morissette. We went to there's these cabins called Unyoked. YOKED.
Yeah.
And they're semi or entirely off grid. And it was just me and Slimane, my son. And they had a CD player and 4 CDs. I tried to play another CD and I didn't even get like 12 seconds of a song in. He was just like, "I want to hear Figures." That's what he calls ironic. It figures. He chooses a word from a song and that's his name for it. It's normally in the refrain. Yeah. He can sing whole songs front to back already. It's wild.
Are you serious?
Yeah. But like, so I love Alanis Morissette. Green Day, Good Riddance.
Oh,
Time
man.
of Your Life. That's my funeral song. Sorry to get dark. But like, that will make
Green
everyone
Day.
cry, won't it, as they mourn me?
Green Day.
Fuckers.
Okay. Do you have the time
to listen to me whine? Blink 182. I miss you. Oh, mate. I would have been a grunger growing up, but I couldn't tell anyone, so I had to be a pretend rude boy. People are a lot more accepting now. Like, you can get robbed by someone wearing a Supreme jumper. Times have changed.
What turns you off?
Ignorance, I think. Inability to listen and to make space. I think the biggest turn off is someone who doesn't understand that none of us are really that smart. Ignorance.
What turns you on?
Definitely inquisitiveness. Yeah, it just being interested. That the sort of, you know, that energy that only comes from people who are inquisitive.
Yeah, totally. You can
It's
see
the
it.
best. Yeah, it's just like that. You stop learning, you stop living.
Yeah.
And I like people who are inquisitive and also not judging.
Yeah. No judgment is so big.
Because it stops everything.
Yeah, it's hard though sometimes. There's something that I'm like, I don't think I judge, but I definitely I catch myself sometimes. I'm like, well, what am I doing?
We all do it. It is like
yeah.
we all do. Again, prediction machines. We hear something and we think we know what's at the end of it. But if you don't listen and entirely and with context, well, if you didn't, you'd be screwed. You'd be no good at this, which you are very good.
Yeah, but I've learned to listen much more, which is the key, especially in these things, right? You listen. What do you like most about yourself?
Why do I find that immediately so hard to answer? I just
Come
get
on.
the inversion creeping.
Get that version out. Let's go.
Yeah, no. My trying nature. People probably, there's definitely people in my life who would call me trying, and not as in I make effort. But you know, I'm beginning to really appreciate my want and hopefully eventually ability to change. Yeah, self-awareness. Hopefully, that's an increasing quality of mine.
Bonus. Favorite lyric you've ever written?
Oh, my favorite verse. I think I think my favorite, because of an honesty and an understanding of something cerebrally that I couldn't really take and integrate was the third verse of Today I Cried. In its entirety as a verse, up until a song that I recorded recently with a guy called Ren.
I love Ren.
Yeah, man.
Man, that guy,
yeah.
he's
I
so real.
I recorded it and then said, I think we should, because people, it's funny, like when I appeared on TikTok in January, which I hadn't before.
Yeah.
That was quite detrimental. I didn't really realize the importance of it. I didn't realize that my entire audience were there either, because when I started posting, people went, "Oh my God, where have you been?" Just on Instagram. I was literally just on that other platform.
Yeah, it's literally just there.
Nice to know that you've all been here, because I didn't know where you'd all gone either.
Ren's big. I see him on TikTok. He's good.
But people were going, "You sound like Ren. You sound like Ren." And I'm like, this goes one of two ways. Either we work together or we compete.
Collaboration is the best.
Yeah.
Always.
I do like battling.
Well, you won, so
I'm joking. I'm just, that's just a nod to my rap battle history.
Man, you won it.
But I think he's great. And I sent him the song, and his verse on it is incredible. There's a Moby sample in it as well, and that will be coming out if not late this year, early next.
That's sick.
And that's my new favorite thing that I've ever written, because I literally the opening.
I can feel this on you.
Yeah, no, the opening lyric, and
go on, give it.
I've locked bathroom doors just to cry my eyes out. My whole life I've been overwhelmed, not by anything in particular. It's all of it. I'm more than a bit particular, and it goes into explaining something that I didn't know I could articulate, but did. And it all just came out almost at once. I was in Bali with Karima and Slimane, and I did just literally lock the door after I pressed play on the beat for the first time. And I had this, it just came out. And I think sometimes things are there, they're just in reach. And it was there, and then it was there, and I knew it front to back as if I'd been rapping it for years immediately, and it articulates something that helps me understand, and I know to listen now, because I didn't used to listen to things once they were finished and put out into the world. And I mean, this isn't out in the world yet, so maybe I will stop listening to it once it is, but it's really significant in my understanding where I'm at the moment. And Ren's verse is incredible. Similarly, he touches on things that I think, again, are really, really resonate with people. Dude,
appreciate everything. Thank you for being open. Thank you for being, thoughtful. Thank you for making me think more. I want everyone to go and buy everything, your new music, everything. We're going to link it all below. Can't wait for that new track coming out. Man.
I'll send you a copy anyway. You can have a listen. Just don't give anyone a link to that.
I won't do anything. I swear on my life, I won't. Are you kidding me? I would freaking just really appreciate.
Put it out tomorrow.
Yeah, I just really appreciate. I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate everything. And the reason why I reached out is I saw you comment underneath some of my videos and things like that.
They're great, man. Honestly, some of the conversations, especially with the conversation with Spencer, I was
really appreciate it.
Some of the stuff he said as well, the detachment from certain things or his ability to detach from things because of trauma that he had gone through. Just hearing him articulate that stuff, it's for all of the suffering that he's gone through, that anyone has gone through, and the things that they're able to talk about, you're articulating those things, and those difficulties can literally change someone's life because they're able to understand something ahead of when they ever would if they were waiting to just understand it in their life without hearing those things. So I think it's incredible what you're doing, mate.
I appreciate it. Everyone go and buy Welcome to the Party. Let's freaking go. Steven, I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. Man, that was freaking... I really hope you enjoyed that episode. I mean, so many things that I took from that was just incredible. One of the big learnings that I took is that, Steven is now 41 years old. And he's still wanting to better himself every single day, even at 41. For me, that is amazing. We forget that actually we're constantly pursuing things in life, I don't know, business or relationships or success, that actually we stop focusing on ourselves. But the biggest success story we can have is when we truly know who we are. And Steven is just proving that's what makes you happy. The conversation around grief and forgiveness as well was really important. The fact that, someone can do something to you in their life, like being aggressive, like he spoke about with the disagreement, the argument they had, that led to him being stabbed in the neck with a bottle. He now forgives and feels sympathy for that person. An incredible episode about self-awareness and education and just learning and bettering yourself every single day. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to Great Company yet, please do. It takes 1 second, it's completely free, and it does so many wonders for our show. And of course, we're going to see you back next week for another episode of it. See you then.